Today and Across the Fence, it's our second afternoon of programming celebrating the thousands of Vermonters who put food on our tables. We're at the annual conference of the Vermont Dairy Industry Association and the Vermont Feed Dealers and Manufacturers Association, which is being held at the Snowflake Mountain Resort in Stowe. Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. This is our second day here at the conference in Stowe that's bringing together agricultural stakeholders from across the state and across the region. To begin with, I'm joined by Dr. Julie Smith. Julie is a veterinarian and dairy specialist with UVM Extension, and she is the president of the Vermont Dairy Industry Association. Thanks so much for inviting us here. And so what's the significance of this fall conference?
Well, the Vermont Dairy Industry Association and the Vermont Feed Dealers have been working together on our annual conferences for over 10 years, but this is the first time that we've held our conference in Stowe, and we're really excited about being in this location. And it's allowed us to think about doing some things different with our program. So one of those things is having an evening banquet.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And so conversations flow over the food that people are going to be eating?
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity for folks from all different aspects of agriculture. A lot of dairy industry folks, but the feed industry supports more than just dairy, so we've got a broad perspective of agriculture in the audience, and we really benefit from sharing what we've been doing and any challenges we've been facing and how we want to move forward together.
Well, we were here yesterday. We visited with a nationally known speaker and agriculture advocate, and today we're going to be visiting with a second guest as well. His name is Trent Loos. Why was Trent invited here to speak?
Well, Trent Loos was invited because he's also a nationally recognized agricultural advocate, and one of the things that was important to the program committee was bringing someone in who would not just be able to present a motivational talk and be entertaining, but have a message as well. And Trent really fits that bill in terms of helping us engage, helping those of us who work with rural agriculture, the producers, engage with others and tell our story.
Okay. Well, as you noted, this annual conference is an opportunity to learn about current industry issues while also networking with others from all aspects of Vermont's dairy industry. The 2013 Vermont Dairy Farm of the Year will also be honored here, and Trent Loos is one of the keynote speakers. It's great to have you with us.
It's like magic, Judy. I'm just, suddenly I'm here. Julie's gone. But I thought I was going to have to do it on the other side of the fence because it's across the fence.
We're on this side, so we've already crossed the fence.
Oh, well, I was afraid I would still have to cross the fence and you were here.
No
Thanks
problem.
for having me.
You're a cowboy, obviously.
Well, I want to be.
Tell me a little bit about your background.
My wife and I ranch in central Nebraska. Mm-hmm. We have beef cattle. We do have some pigs. We have 40 horses. We have 60 meat goats, and most importantly, we have 3 daughters. So we combine land and livestock with our passion. Our entire family has a passion for this, and I'm a 6th generation United States rancher.
Mm-hmm. And so I understand your daughters are showing cattle?
They do show cattle, they show horses, and they show pigs. We just finished the Nebraska State Fair, 11 intense days, but it's a tremendous opportunity to display our young people, and a lot of people get confused about showing livestock, and you'll get some criticism saying that, well, show ring does not reflect the real world of commercial meat production. And I won't argue that it does, but what we cannot confuse is the fact that we're not using the young people to improve the livestock, we're using the livestock to improve the young people. You know, and I made an analogy earlier this summer. We showed the pigs at the World Pork Expo, and there were 800 young people from 30 states around the country. They displayed about 1,200 head of pigs themselves. And I looked around and I noticed, you know, today we're told every single day that young people are overweight, they're obese, they don't want to work. And in fact, I was speaking to 12 of the largest retailers in the entire country, grocery store and retailers. And I said, I want you to look around here. I want you to tell me, out of these nearly 1,000 kids involved in agriculture, how many of them do you consider overweight? And one lady said, maybe 2. So why is that? Why is it that only 2 out of 1,000 young people in agriculture are overweight? Well, it's because in order to get the pig to the World Pork Expo and to be competitive, you have to understand proper nutrition. You have to understand how to feed that pig to its greatest genetic potential so that it displays muscle, it's lean, it does all these other things that are important to win in the show ring. But they also, some of those kids will walk those pigs at least a half a mile a day. Some of them walk them a mile a day. So at the end of the story, what did the kid learn? Not only how to prepare a pig to be the most competitive, but they actually learn how to lead the healthiest life themselves. And so if we had more young people in every walk of life that had some responsibility that they had to follow through to be competitive, and you can accomplish this through athletics, whatever the case may be. I'm sharing one that we're very passionate about. It teaches young people what's important in life, and that is that it takes hard work, work ethic, and responsibility to accomplish what you want, whether it be win a show ring or simply just be healthy.
Exactly. So you're an agriculture advocate. What does that mean?
I have no idea. But what I do know is that I am extremely passionate about the life that we lead. And my family now for 6 generations, since 1832, we've been involved in taking care of the land. What it means to me is that we are taking care of the God-given natural resources to generate the essentials of life for mankind: food, fiber, pharmaceuticals, and fuel. And you show me a nation that does not have a domestic supply of food, pharmaceuticals, and fuel and shelter, I'll show you a nation where people are struggling. So I'm trying to find ways to celebrate the accomplishments of American agriculture. And it really began in 1862. 1862 is when the United States Department of Agriculture was born under the Lincoln administration, and he called it the People's Department. And the success story that comes along with that in 2012, farm gate prices, what farmers received for their products produced, was at record levels. Cattle prices, corn prices, soybean prices, right? Even milk producers, costs were higher, but they received more for milk than they'd ever received. And at the same time, the American consumer still spent less than 10% of their disposable income on food. How did that happen? It happened because of the hard work and the work ethic that was learned at an early age that continues to carry on. The dairy industry, a tremendous success story. We have 1/3 of the dairy cows that we had in 1945 in this nation, and yet we produce 3 times as much total milk. Everybody today talks about how can we become green, how can we become green? There's nobody more green than the American farmer, and particularly the dairy producer, that has found a way to take less than 9 million cows and produce 3 times as much milk as we did with 24 million cows 60 years ago, in my father's lifetime. That's the accomplishment.
And so what are some of the common things that people get wrong about agriculture?
You know, it's interesting. I started doing this 14 years ago. And Judy, I started doing it because I thought the kid in the grocery store didn't know enough about where his milk comes from. Today, I think the consumer knows too much about where their food comes from. We've now got a movement taking place where everybody wants to explain the local farm aspect. They want to talk to the farmer. They want to do all of these other things. And there's a lot of people supplying information. But I think it's more dangerous for people to be misinformed than to be ignorant. And we're now at a point in time where people are misinformed.
Can you give me an example of that?
Biotechnology. Perfect example happened to me just last week. Friends of mine from Kansas are in the dairy business. There's 2 brothers, and the next generation are back on the farm. 5 years ago, they decided they had to grow. So instead of adding cows, they brought a bottling plant right into their dairy. So they now have a retail store in their plant, or at the dairy farm, but they also have 12 retail clients, grocery stores, that they deliver to. And by the way, they still sell milk in glass bottles. Remember those days? And they are in a streak since January 1 where customers are calling them saying, "Are your cows eating genetically modified crops?" And they do. They use BT corn. They use Roundup Ready alfalfa, which is science and technology, documented to be safe, that improves our ability to produce more with less. Well, in the past 2 weeks, they knowingly have lost 12 customers and 1 retail outlet simply because they feed their cows genetically modified crops. Science says there is 0 difference, and in fact, because of genetic modification in crop production, we have reduced the amount of chemicals that are being applied to the land, ultimately making us more green. And yet the misconception is that it's somehow dangerous either to the planet or to human health, which both are absolutely false.
So tell us about something called Faces of Agriculture.
In 2000, when my wife and I, Kelly, decided that we needed to do this, becoming better advocates for agriculture and what it is that we do, we recognized that I could sit here and spew numbers. I'm a numbers guy, and I could spew numbers all day long about the improvements in producing more with less. But the only thing that really resonates with people is their interaction with the individuals. The dairymen across this country, Vermont, New Hampshire, whatever's New York, third largest dairy state in the nation, are tremendous about bringing kids to the farm one day in the spring. And how many times you've been there when you see the fourth grade kids walking through, and Ron Durst, a dairyman who does a great job in Minnesota doing this, and every one of those kids goes home and talks about their dairy farmer. And they'll see their dairy farmer in the grocery store in their community one day, and they'll pull on their mom's coat sleeve and say, "Mom, that's my dairy farmer." It's the people that matter. And so what we've attempted to do for 14 years is truly put the emphasis on the people, because people trust people. And how can we put a better face on who the modern food producer is? So that's the concept behind Faces of Agriculture.
And tell us about your show, Rural Route.
Actually, I do 6 radio shows a day. I just finished Rural Route today, and we talked about Vermont and the northeastern part of the United States, which for my radio audience is primarily the Great Plains. I am broadcasting in 19 states. But I really work at connecting the farmer with the consumer. And that's the greatest challenge, is how do we get the story to a consumer today that, quite frankly, is overloaded with information. I really don't want to be a consumer in today's world where you constantly have people on both sides of the equation telling you what's good and what's bad for your kids. How do they sort through all of that? So what I try to do is, in a very common sense, practical approach, using the people who are closest to the land and the livestock, explain to the consumer those questions that they're asking about hormones, which is probably the biggest one that we address today, the buzz about the hormones that are used in food production. Is there potential harm? And I bring those individuals to the radio audience via radio stations, and the huge growth is in internet distribution.
Right. And so what's been the result? Have you seen results?
Results are hard to measure, and that's not simply an excuse for saying, "I'm not accomplishing anything, Judy." They are hard to measure, but you continue to get emails. You get little signs of victory where a mother in Philadelphia will send you a note and say, "You know, I listened to your program talk about whole milk and how the whole milk compared to 2% has the good fat still in it. And my family should be consuming whole milk because the conjugated linoleic acid, the omega-3 benefit is there. And now my family's been doing that for 6 months, and my kids are actually more active. They retain information better because omega-3 is vitally important for brain function and cognitive abilities." And little success stories like that people reach out to you, is what continues to drive it. And I am a 6th-generation farmer, and farmers are the most optimistic people in the world, so I believe that I'm convincing 314 million people, Judy, about the importance of modern food production.
What do you find most challenging in your work?
Dealing with my wife. I'm kidding. I could not do this without. I'm glad that one humored you, though. I caught you off guard a little bit. I think your horse just bucked on you. Well, that's why I leave the house half the time. She runs, people often say, "Well, Trent, how can you consider yourself a rancher? You're never home." That's why I fess up and tell them that my ranch is just as big as my wife can handle, because, and that really is the unsung hero of American agriculture, dating back to the pioneer days. The men would go west and we'd be these macho guys, and it was the women holding the fort down. And so the greatest challenge is just getting people to understand the family aspect, and that it's everybody's involved in this. It's not just the guys. In fact, the dairy industry, you can go to some places around the state of Vermont, the Northeast, Wisconsin, where sisters are running the operations. And so it's just tremendously rewarding to bring those people that are fulfilling their passion of improving mankind with the natural resources to the limelight every day. In a nutshell, the greatest challenge is just getting to enough of the people.
Right. And so if people want more information or they want to get involved, what should they do?
Well, they should actually just drop their fears and do it. Obviously, you could go to my website, loostales.com, if you like, but I got information there. You can maybe feel like you're somewhat more empowered by going to get some hormone fact from my website, which are all laid out there. But you just need the confidence that you're an expert in your own experiences. You don't need to pile up a bunch of statistics to go inform your neighbor about what it is that you've done. What you need to do is walk into your local 3rd or 4th grade classroom and let them pummel you with questions for an hour, and you'll begin to learn, wait a minute, I've done all of these things my whole life. I just need to tell people what I've done. Because we all lose sight of the fact that we are expert in our own experiences. Just go tell people what your experiences are.
Trent, I want to thank you for joining us.
I don't want to quit. This is fun, Judy.
I know, I've been having a lot of fun too, but we're out of time, sadly. That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.
For a video copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-ATF-3430. Across the Fence is brought to you as a public service by University of Vermont Extension and WCAX-TV.